Throughout the centuries, entire civilizations have left behind traces of knowledge that seem to challenge us from the shadows of time. These vestiges suggest that the ancients possessed skills and understandings that the modern world still struggles to decipher. How did they manage to build monuments that defy the precision of our current tools? What secrets did their texts and artifacts hold that were lost in the passage of time? This lost knowledge not only intrigues us, but also leaves us with many questions. Intrigue us, but also compels us to reflect on human capabilities and our connection to the cosmos. As we explore these stories, we encounter echoes of brilliant minds who reached the pinnacle of wisdom and left behind a legacy that humanity is desperately trying to rediscover. On this journey, we will cross the boundaries of time to unravel the mysteries surrounding the technological, mathematical, and spiritual advances of ancient cultures. Each ancient story will open a window to a world where logic meets the seemingly impossible. Join us as we unravel these enigmas. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share it with those who also feel fascinated by the mysteries of the past. In the heart of the ancient city of Alexandria, where the Nile meets the Mediterranean, stood a majestic structure that seemed to defy time and oblivion, the Library of Alexandria. This sanctuary of knowledge, shrouded in an aura of mystery and grandeur, housed within its marble walls and imposing columns, an incalculable treasure of wisdom. Scholars from all lands, from the sands of Egypt to the hills of Greece, made pilgrimages to this sacred place, attracted by the promise of discovering the secrets of the universe. In its vast halls, papyrus scrolls were stacked on shelves that extended to the ceiling, each containing the voices of philosophers, scientists, and poets who had left their mark on history. The atmosphere inside the library was almost mystical, with the soft murmur of the pages being unrolled by scholars discussing theories and concepts. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, illuminating the dust dancing in the air as if they were the souls of the ancient sages who still inhabited the place. In a secluded corner, a group of scholars gathered around a newly arrived manuscript, their faces lit up with the excitement of discovery. It was a text of unknown origin, written in a language none of them had seen before. Its contents promised to reveal knowledge that could change the course of humanity. However, not all the secrets of the library were destined to be revealed. In the depths of its archives, hidden behind closed doors and secret passageways, lay texts that would never see the light of day. These documents, considered too dangerous or heretical, were jealously guarded by a select group of guardians who swore to protect them from those who might use them for evil. It was said that among these forbidden texts were treatises on alchemy that promised immortality, maps of unknown lands beyond the confines of the known world, and prophecies that predicted the fate of entire kingdoms. As time went on, the library became a symbol of power and prestige, attracting the attention of rulers and conquerors. Some saw it as a source of enlightenment and progress, while others considered it a threat to their authority. In the shadows, wove intrigues and conspiracies with spies and saboteurs infiltrating its walls seeking to steal or destroy the knowledge stored there. Tension grew and the fate of the library hung in the balance as the forces of change gathered on the horizon. Finally, the fateful day arrived when fire and destruction rained down on the library, consuming centuries of accumulated wisdom in voracious flames. The scholars desperately tried to save what they could, but the magnitude of the disaster was overwhelming. Columns of smoke rose into the sky, carrying with them the words of the ancients, lost forever in the wind. Amid the chaos, some texts were rescued, but many more vanished into oblivion, leaving behind a void that could never be filled. In the vast desert of Egypt, where the scorching sun meets the golden sands, the pyramids rise majestically. These colossal structures that defy the passage of time were conceived by brilliant minds and labored hands guided by a vision that transcended the earthly realm. Conceived by brilliant minds and laboring hands guided by a vision that transcended the earthly realm. At the heart of these architectural marvels lie hidden passageways and chambers that tell stories of power and spirituality. The ancient Egyptians, with their profound knowledge of astronomy and geometry, designed the pyramids with a precision that still amazes scholars today. Each block of stone, carefully carved and placed, is testimony to a civilization that sought eternity. As one into the interior of a pyramid, the air becomes dense, and an almost palpable silence envelopes the visitor. The walls covered with hieroglyphics narrate the epic deeds of pharaohs and gods, while shadows dance to the rhythm of the torches that light the way. At the center of this stone labyrinth is the burial chamber, the Holy of Holies, where the remains of the pharaoh rest surrounded by unimaginable treasures. These carefully arranged objects not only reflect material wealth, but also the spiritual world of the pharaohs. These objects, carefully arranged, not only reflect material wealth, but also the belief in an afterlife where the pharaoh would continue his reign in the hereafter. The design of the pyramids is not the result of chance, but of a deep understanding of the forces of nature. Egyptian architects, masters in the art of construction, used advanced techniques to ensure the stability of these structures. The orientation of the pyramids, aligned with the stars, reveals an astronomical knowledge that allowed the Egyptians to connect with the heavens. The Egyptians connect the earthly world with the cosmos. This cosmic connection was not only symbolic, but also had a practical purpose, guiding the pharaoh's soul to his heavenly destination. On the outside, the pyramids stand as mountains of stone, defying time and the elements. Their smooth, polished faces reflect the sunlight, creating a spectacle of light and shadow that changes with the passing of the day. The ancient Egyptians, aware of the importance of image and perception, designed these structures to impress and amaze all who saw them. Each pyramid, with its perfect geometric shape, is a monument to the greatness of a civilization that understood the power of architecture as a tool for communicating its legacy. The process of building the pyramids is an enigma that has fascinated generations of archaeologists and historians. It is said that thousands of workers organized into highly efficient teams dedicated their lives to building these marvels using rudimentary tools. Rudimentary, but effective tools. They cut and transported enormous blocks of stone from distant quarries, overcoming unimaginable obstacles. The logistics behind this titanic effort are a testament to the organizational capacity and determination of the ancient Egyptians, who saw each pyramid as a bridge to immortality. In the heart of the vast Aegean Sea, where the sun whispers secrets of lost civilizations, lies the island of Antikythera. It was here in the blue depths that a group of divers searching for sponges discovered a shipwreck that would forever change our understanding of ancient human ingenuity. Among the remains of amphorae and statues emerged an object covered in centuries of marine sediment, the Antikythera mechanism. This artifact, corroded by time and salt water, appeared at first glance to be a jumble of gears and wheels, but its true purpose was shrouded in a mystery as deep as the ocean that had hidden it. With its multiple discs and scales appeared to be an astronomical calculator capable of predict eclipses and track the course of the planets. Scholars fascinated by its complexity began to decipher its secrets, discovering that it could simulate the movement of the sun and moon across the zodiac. Each turn of its gears was an echo of the celestial dance, a reflection of the harmony of the cosmos that the ancient Greeks revered and studied with devotion. This artifact, lost in time, was a window into the minds of the ancients, a bridge between man and the stars. However, the mystery of the mechanism of the Antikythera was not limited to its function. The question of who had created it and how it had reached such a level of technological sophistication remained unanswered. Some speculated that it was the work of Archimedes, the legendary inventor and mathematician, while others suggested that it was the product of an advanced school of thought, a legacy of knowledge passed down through generations. The lack of written records about its construction only added more layers to the enigma, leaving historians and scientists with more questions than answers. The discovery of the mechanism also raised questions about the extent of scientific knowledge in ancient times. If the ancient Greeks were capable of creating such an advanced machine, what other secrets might they have possessed? What other technological marvels have been lost to time, waiting to be rediscovered? The Antikythera mechanism became a symbol of human curiosity, a reminder that the desire to explore and understand the world is a constant throughout history. As the sun sets over the sea, bathing the island of Antikythera in a golden glow, the mechanism remains a fascinating enigma. Its presence is a testament to the ingenuity and creativity of our ancestors, an invitation to continue exploring the mysteries of the past. In every gear and wheel, in every astronomical calculation, lies the essence of a civilization that looked to the sky in wonder and sought to understand its place in the vast tapestry of the universe. The Antikythera mechanism, Antikythera, an ancient computer, remains a bridge between the past and the present, a reminder that knowledge is an endless journey. In the heart of ancient Mesopotamia, where the Euphrates River winds through vast plains, stood the majestic hanging gardens of Babylon, a marvel of engineering and nature that defied the aridity of the environment. These gardens, according to legend, were built by King Nebuchadnezzar II for his wife Amytis, who longed for the green hills of her homeland. The hydraulic technology that sustained this earthly paradise was a testament to human ingenuity, an intricate system that allowed water to flow from the river to the elevated terraces, feeding lush vegetation that seemed to defy gravity. The secret of the gardens lay in a complex system of pumps and pulleys that lifted the water from the river to the top of the terraces. Babylonian engineers had designed a mechanism of screws and wheels that, powered by animal or slave power, transported the water through a series of canals and aqueducts. These canals, built with baked bricks and sealed with bitumen, ensured that the water reached every corner of the garden, keeping the plants evergreen and blooming. The precision of this system was such that it allowed for a constant flow, avoiding both excess and scarcity of water. As the water rose, it was carefully distributed through a network of secondary channels that wound their way between the terraces. Each level of the garden was designed to maximize irrigation efficiency, with plants arranged to make the most of the moisture. The terraces were built with a mixture of earth and stone, which provided adequate drainage and prevented erosion. The selection of plants was diverse, ranging from fruit trees to exotic flowers, creating a mosaic of colors and aromas that delighted the senses of those fortunate enough to stroll through the gardens. Lucky enough to stroll through them. Paths. The design of the gardens was not only functional, but also aesthetically impressive. The terraces were arranged in tiers, creating the illusion of a green mountain in the middle of the desert. The shade of the trees provided a cool refuge from the scorching sun, while the fountains and waterfalls added a constant murmur of water that calmed the spirit. This artificial oasis was not only a gift of love, but also a demonstration of the wealth of the Babylonian Empire. Wealth of the Babylonian Empire. A symbol of its ability to dominate and transform nature. Life in the gardens was a spectacle in itself. Brightly colored birds nested among the branches, while small animals moved freely among the vegetation. Expert gardeners worked tirelessly to maintain the beauty of the place, pruning, planting, and ensuring that each plant received the necessary care. Visitors, both local and foreign, were amazed at the sight of this Eden, a place where nature and engineering came together in perfect harmony. In the heart of the ancient Indus Valley, a civilization flourished with a splendor that defies the passage of time. The cities of Harappa and Mohenjo-daro stood majestically with their meticulously planned streets and imposing brick towers. However, what most intrigued travelers and scholars of later times was the enigmatic language that echoed in every corner of these cities, inscribed on clay tablets and stone seals. This lost language seemed to hold the secrets of an advanced society whose inhabitants communicated through symbols that remain indecipherable to this day. Archaeologists, upon unearthing these vestiges, marveled at the complexity of the signs, which suggested a sophisticated writing system used to record commercial transactions, religious rituals, and perhaps epic stories of heroes and gods. As the sun set over the horizon of the valley, the shadows of the ancient structures lengthened as if they wanted to reach the past and reveal the mysteries of those who once inhabited these lands. The inhabitants of the Indus Valley were masters in the art of urbanization, with advanced knowledge of hydraulics that allowed them to build complex sewer systems and public baths. However, their language, despite being omnipresent in their daily lives, faded away over time, leaving behind a silence that only the echoes of the past can break. Faded over time, leaving behind a silence that only the dry wind seemed to fill. The symbols engraved with precision on the seals showed figures of animals, human figures, and geometric shapes, each with a meaning that has been lost in time, like an unsolvable puzzle. On starry nights, when the sky became a blanket of constellations, the priests of the Lindo Valley gathered in temples to perform ceremonies that connected the earthly with the divine. It is believed that these rituals were accompanied by chants and prayers in the sacred language, a language that resonated with the power of the gods and guided the community in their daily lives. The seals found in the temples suggest that language was not only a means of communication, but also a tool of spiritual power, capable of invoking the protection of the deities and ensuring the prosperity of the earth. However, with the passing of the centuries, these voices faded and the sacred language became a forgotten whisper. Over time, merchants from the Indus Valley, known for their trading skills, traveled to distant lands, carrying with them not only goods, but also their language and culture. In the bustling markets, the language of the Indus resounded in transactions, in promises of wealth, and in agreements sealed with a handshake. However, as trade routes changed and new civilizations emerged, the language of the Indus began to fade away like a river that loses its course. Records of these interactions, recorded on tablets, became relics of a bygone era, silent witnesses to a language that once united people from different corners of the world. In the twilight of the Indus Valley civilization, as cities began to be abandoned and nature reclaimed what was once hers, the vanished language became a myth, a legend whispered by the wind among the ruins. The few remaining inhabitants, perhaps aware of the impending loss, attempted to preserve their legacy through stories and songs, but the passage of time was relentless. Future generations, looking back, found only fragments of a language that was once the heart of a great civilization, a language that now lay buried under layers of earth and oblivion. In the golden sands of ancient Egypt, where the Nile winds like a ribbon of life through the desert, stood the city of Thebes, an epicenter of knowledge and mystery. In its temples and libraries, priests and scholars devoted there lives to the study of alchemy, an arcane art that promised to reveal the secrets of transmutation. At the heart of this enigma lay the legendary Book of Tod, a compendium of wisdom that was said to contain the formulas for transforming matter and achieving immortality. The walls of the temples were covered with hieroglyphics that told stories of gods and men who had achieved the impossible, turning lead into gold and attaining eternal life in a hidden chamber beneath the temple of Karnak, lead into gold and achieving eternal life. In a hidden chamber beneath the temple of Karnak, a select group of initiates gathered in secret, dressed in white linen robes, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of torches. These alchemists studied the ancient scrolls that contained the formulas for. Select group of initiates gathered in secret, dressed in white linen robes, their faces illuminated by the flickering light of torches. These alchemists studied the ancient scrolls containing the formulas and symbols of transmutation. The air was filled with the scent of incense and herbs, while chants echoed off the stone walls, creating an atmosphere of reverence and mystery. Every night, the alchemists conducted experiments, mixing metals and minerals in clay crucibles. Clay, searching for the divine spark that would transform the mundane into the sublime. Among them was Nefer-Hotep, a young apprentice whose curiosity and determination had led him to the gates of forbidden knowledge. As he advanced in his studies, Nefer-Hotep began to have visions of Tod, the god of wisdom, who whispered secrets to him in his dreams. These visions guided him through complex formulas and rituals, revealing fragments of lost knowledge. However, with each revelation, Nefer-Hotep felt the weight of a warning. The power of transmutation was not a gift but a test, and those who sought it must be prepared to face the consequences of their actions. One night, as the full moon bathed the temple in its silvery light, Nefer-Hotep decided to put his knowledge to the test. In the center of the chamber, he placed a crucible filled with lead and began to recite the sacred words he had learned. As with each syllable he uttered, the air vibrated with a palpable energy, and the lead began to glow with a golden light. The other alchemists watched in awe and fear, aware that they were witnessing a momentous occasion. However, just as the lead seemed to transform into gold, an icy wind swept through the chamber, extinguishing the torches and plunging everything into darkness. In the silence that followed, Nefer-Hotep realized that he had crossed a dangerous threshold. Although he had achieved transmutation, he had also awakened forces he did not understand. In the days that followed, strange events began to occur in Thebes. The waters of the Nile turned an unusual color, and the stars in the sky seemed to change position. The priests interpreted these events as signs that the gods were restless and began to perform rituals to appease their wrath. Nefer, consumed by guilt and fear, realized that he must find a way to restore the balance he had disrupted on the distant island of Easter Island, a place shrouded in mystery and legends, stood a civilization that left behind an enigmatic legacy, the Rongorongo writing system. In the heart of this island, surrounded by the vast Pacific Ocean, the ancient inhabitants developed a method of communication that to this day defies modern understanding. Wooden tablets covered with intricate glyphs lay hidden in caves and under the shadow of the imposing Moai statues, waiting to be discovered by those who dared to unravel their secrets. Each carved symbol seemed to tell a story, a fragment of the life and beliefs of a people who had learned to communicate with the wind and the sea. The inhabitants of the island, known as the Rapanui, lived in a world where the spiritual and the earthly were intertwined in a delicate balance. Rongorongo was not simply a writing system. It was a bridge to the divine, a tool that allowed priests and leaders to communicate with their ancestors and the gods. The carefully crafted tablets were considered sacred, and their creation was reserved for those who possessed the necessary knowledge and skill. On full moon nights, the wise men gathered around bonfires, their shadows dancing on the rock walls as they deciphered the messages hidden in the glyphs, seeking guidance and wisdom for their people. As time went on, Rongorongo became a symbol of power and knowledge. The leaders of the island, aware of its importance, jealously guarded it, ensuring that only a select few could access its contents. However, over the years, tensions between rival clans began to grow, and knowledge of the Rongorongo became a weapon in the struggle for control of the island. The tablets, once seen as a gift from the gods, became objects of greed and conflict, and their original meaning began to fade amid the ambition and rivalry. In this context of turmoil, a young man named Jek, belonging to a minor clan, embarked on a quest to discover the true purpose of the Rongorongo. Guided by dreams and visions, Sheik ventured into the depths of the island, exploring forgotten caves and ancient ruins in search of answers. On his journey, he found a tablet unlike any other, covered with symbols that seemed to glow with a light of their own. When he touched it, he felt a deep connection with his ancestors, as if the voices of the past were whispering in his mind, revealing secrets that had been hidden. 4 generations. Over time, Czech realized that Rongorongo was not just a means of communication, but a manifestation of his people's collective knowledge, a way to preserve their history and identity in a constantly changing world. Determined to share his discovery, Czech gathered the clan leaders in an attempt to unite them under a common purpose. In a solemn ceremony, he presented the sacred tablet, narrating the stories he had learned and remembering all of the importance of their shared heritage. His message resonated in the hearts of those present, and for a brief moment, the island was united in a spirit of peace and cooperation. In the vast plains of the Bolivian highlands, where the wind blows with a force that seems to want to unearth secrets from the past, stands the enigmatic complex of Puma Punku. This place, shrouded in an aura of mystery, is a silent testimony to an ancient civilization that possessed architectural and engineering knowledge that defies modern understanding. The megalithic stones, some of which weigh several tons, are carved with a precision that seems impossible to achieve without advanced tools. The blocks of andesite, an extremely hard volcanic rock, are cut at perfect angles and fit together with such accuracy that not even a sheet of paper can pass between them. The question that echoes in the air is how a culture without modern technology could have achieved such a feat. As one enters the complex, the arrangement of the stones reveals a geometric design that suggests a purpose beyond the merely aesthetic. The structures appear to have been part of a large temple or ceremonial center where the ancient inhabitants of the region gathered to pay homage to their deities. The step platforms and elevated terraces indicate an advanced knowledge of civil engineering, allowing the structures to withstand the passage of time and the forces of nature. Archaeologists have speculated that Puma Punku may have been a place of great spiritual importance, a point of connection between the earthly world and the cosmos, where rituals were carried out under the watchful gaze of the stars. The mystery deepens when observing the intricate engravings and reliefs that adorn some of the stones. Geometric figures, abstract symbols, and representations of anthropomorphic beings suggest a rich iconography that has not yet been completely deciphered. These engravings could have been a visual language, a form of communication that conveyed esoteric or mythological knowledge to those who knew how to interpret them. The precision of the cuts and the symmetry of the designs indicate that the artisans of Puma Punku possessed exceptional mastery of their tools, whatever they may have been. The absence of chisel or hammer marks on the surfaces of the stones has led some to speculate about the use of advanced techniques, perhaps even unknown to us today. The natural environment surrounding Puma Punku also plays a crucial role in its construction. Mystery. Located at an altitude of more than 3,800 meters above sea level, the complex is exposed to extreme weather conditions with temperatures that can vary dramatically between day and night. However, the stones remain unchanged, as if protected by an ancestral power. The site's location near Lake Titicaca suggests a connection with water, a sacred element in many ancient cultures. It is possible that the builders of Puma Punku chose this location for its proximity to a source of life, a symbol of fertility and renewal that resonated with their spiritual beliefs. Over the centuries, Puma Punku has been the subject of numerous theories and speculations. Some researchers have proposed that the complex was built by a lost civilization whose knowledge faded over time. Others suggest that it may have been a center of cultural exchange where different peoples gathered to share ideas and technologies. The lack of written records has left many questions unanswered. But it has also allowed the site to retain its aura of mystery. Every stone, every engraving seems to tell a story that resists being fully revealed, inviting visitors to contemplate the past with awe and reverence. In the vast Nazca Desert, where the wind whispers ancient secrets and the relentless sun caresses the earth with its scorching heat, enigmatic lines stretch out, defying the passage of time. These lines, precisely drawn on the arid surface, form geometric figures and representations of animals that can only be fully appreciated from the sky. The story that unfolds before us is an enigma that has fascinated generations, a puzzle from ancient times that invites contemplation and wonder in this desolate setting where life seems to have stopped. The Nazca Lines stand as a silent testimony to lost knowledge, a legacy of a civilization that looked to the sky in search of answers. As the sun hides on the horizon, shadows lengthen across the desert, revealing with greater clarity the shapes that lie on the ground. A hummingbird spreads its wings in eternal flight, while a monkey with a spiral tail seems to dance in a cosmic ritual. These figures, drawn with a precision that defies modern understanding, suggest a deep understanding of the environment and the cosmos. The ancient inhabitants of Nazca, with a wisdom that escapes us, they could have used these lines as an astronomical calendar, a map, that guided their lives and rituals. The arrangement of the figures and their orientation with respect to the stars suggest an intimate connection with the sky, a silent dialogue between the earth and the heavens. The desert wind blows tirelessly, caressing the lines with reverent respect, as if it knows it is in the presence of something sacred. Despite their apparent fragility, the lines have withstood the passage of centuries, preserving their mystery intact. The ancient Nazcas, with skill that defies logic, removed the dark stones from the surface to reveal the lighter soil beneath, creating a contrast that has endured over time. This act of creation, which seems simple at first glance, is actually a testament to a deep understanding of nature and a desire to communicate with the divine. The lines, in their silence, tell a story of devotion and a longing to understand the universe in the twilight of dusk, when the sky is tinged with impossible colors fills with impossible colors. The lines of Nazca seem to come to life as if the figures want to break free from their earthly confinement and rise towards the stars. The spider, with its legs outstretched, seems to weave an invisible thread connecting heaven and earth, while the condor, with its wings spread, seems ready to take flight into the unknown. These images, laden with symbolism, suggest an understanding of the duality of existence, of the connection between the earthly and the celestial. The ancient Nazcas, in their wisdom, may have used these lines as a means of communicating with the gods, a bridge between the human and divine worlds. The desert, with its overwhelming silence, jealously guards the secrets of the Nazca Lines. Modern archaeologists and scientists, with all their advanced technology, can only speculate about the purpose and meaning of these enigmatic figures. However, despite advances in knowledge, the lines remain a mystery, a reminder that there are things that escape beyond our comprehension. In this inhospitable landscape where life seems impossible, the Nazca Lines stand as a testament to the human capacity to dream and seek answers. Beyond the visible, in a remote time more than 12,000 years ago, in a region we now know as southeastern Turkey, a group of humans embarked on a monumental undertaking that would challenge the capabilities of their time. In a landscape dominated by Onan, vast expanses of fertile land stood Göbekli Tepe, a sanctuary that would become the epicenter of an archaeological mystery. The builders, hunter-gatherers who had not yet adopted agriculture, gathered at this sacred place, driven by a vision that transcended their understanding of the world. With rudimentary tools, they carved enormous limestone pillars, each adorned with intricate reliefs of animals and symbols that seemed to tell stories of a spiritual and mystical world. As the sun rose above the horizon, casting long shadows across the ground, the workers toiled away at their task, moving the colossal stones with a precision that seemed to defy the limitations of their technology. The pillars, arranged in concentric circles, stood like silent guardians of lost knowledge. On their surfaces, figures of lions, foxes, snakes, and birds seemed to come to life under the changing light of day, their carved eyes watching the humans who gathered around them. This place was not only a meeting place, but also a bridge between the earthly and the divine. Divine, a space where the boundaries between man and nature blurred. The wind blew gently through the structures, carrying with it the echoes of songs and rituals that resonated in the air. The inhabitants of Göbekli Tepe, guided by shamans and spiritual leaders, participated in ceremonies that sought to connect with forces beyond their understanding. At the center of each circle, a stone altar served as a focal point for offerings and sacrifices, a testament to the deep respect and fear they felt towards the invisible powers they believed governed their existence. The nights illuminated by starlight became a stage of dancing shadows and whispers, where stories of creation and destruction intertwined in a tapestry of myths and legends. Over the years, Göbekli Tepe became a place of pilgrimage, attracting groups of people from distant regions. Each tribe brought with them their own beliefs and traditions, enriching the sanctuary with a cultural diversity that was reflected in the new constructions and decorations. The oldest pillars, worn down by time, were replaced by new, more elaborate and detailed ones, while the old ones were carefully buried under layers of earth and rubble, as if to preserve their essence for future generations. This cycle of renewal and concealment added a layer of mystery to the place, suggesting an esoteric knowledge that only a select few could understand. The natural environment surrounding Göbekli Tepe also played a crucial role in its significance. The surrounding hills, covered with vegetation and home to a rich fauna, provided not only the resources necessary for survival, but also a symbolic backdrop for spiritual activities. The animals depicted on the pillars were not mere decorations, but manifestations of guardian spirits and deities that inhabited the natural world. The interaction between humans and their environment became a sacred dialogue where every element of the landscape had a purpose and meaning in the grand scheme of existence. In the heart of the dense jungle, where birdsong intertwines with the whisper of the wind through the leaves, stands the majestic city of Tikal. Here, the ancient Maya, with their deep understanding of the cosmos, erected temples that seemed to touch the sky. Priests dressed in feather and jade robes ascended the stone stairways at nightfall, when the sky unfolded in all its splendor. From above, they observed the stone at nightfall, when the sky unfolded in all its splendor. From above, they observed the stars, their eyes reflecting the light of constellations that had been their guides for generations. Every celestial movement was recorded with precision in tree bar codices, where glyphs narrated stories of gods and heroes, and where time itself seemed to be woven into a tapestry of eternal cycles. In the center of the city, the Great Plaza became a stage for rituals celebrating the passing of the seasons. The Maya, with their keen sense of time, had developed a calendar that not only marked the days, months, and years, but also the seasons, the solstices, and the equinoxes. Sense of time had developed a calendar that not only marked the days, but also predicted eclipses and planetary alignments. On full moon nights, the plaza was lit with torches, and the people gathered to witness ceremonies that connected the earthly world with the celestial. Priests with their faces painted and adorned with jaguar masks invoked the gods to ensure the prosperity of the harvests and the protection of the community. The echo of the drums resounded through the jungle as copal smoke rose toward the stars, carrying with it the prayers of the faithful. Beyond the ceremonies, the astronomical knowledge of the Maya was reflected in the architecture of their cities. The temples and observatories were aligned with mathematical precision, oriented toward the cardinal points and the solstices. In Uxmal, the Pyramid of the Magician stood as a testament to this wisdom. Its elliptical structure was designed to capture the sunlight at specific times of the year. At dawn, a ray of sunlight would pass through the temple door, illuminating the altar, symbolizing the rebirth of life. This phenomenon, observed for generations, was a tangible manifestation of the connection between man and the cosmos, of a reminder that human existence was intimately linked to the cycles of the universe. In the kingdom of Palenque, King Pakal the Great, known for his devotion to the sciences, had ordered the construction of an observatory that rose above the jungle. From there, The Mayan astronomers studied the movement of Venus, a planet they considered of great importance. Their observations were so accurate that they could predict its appearance in the morning and evening sky with precision. This knowledge not only had religious implications, but also influenced politics and warfare. The decisions of rulers were often based on the interpretations of astronomers, who read the celestial omens like an open book, guiding their people through the challenges of the earthly world. In the south, in the city of Copan, the Maya had developed a writing system that allowed them to record their astronomical discoveries in unprecedented detail. The carefully carved stone stelae narrated the exploits of the kings and their connections to the gods of the sky. On one of these stelae, a priest was depicted holding a glyph symbolizing the planet Mars, indicating an astronomical event that had been observed and recorded for posterity. These inscriptions were more than simple records. They were a legacy of knowledge that transcended time, a bridge between the past and the future that ensured that future generations could continue to explore the mysteries of the cosmos. In a remote time, at the heart of a flourishing civilization, lay the mythical city of Damascus, a place where art and science intertwined in a delicate balance. In this city, blacksmiths were considered almost alchemists, possessors of arcane knowledge that allowed them to transform metal into gold, something more than a simple tool or weapon. Damascus steel, famous for its strength and beauty, was the result of a secret process known only to a select few. In the forges, the heat of the fire danced with the sound of the hammer striking the metal, creating a symphony that echoed through the cobbled streets. The blacksmiths, their faces covered in soot and sweat, worked tirelessly, guided by ancestral knowledge that was passed down from generation to generation. The process of creating Damascus steel began with the selection of the purest materials. The blacksmiths traveled vast distances in search of the right minerals, those that contained the very essence of the earth. Once gathered, the minerals were melted in a crucible where the purifying fire removed the impurities, leaving only the purest metal. This metal was then mixed with other secret elements whose exact composition was known only to the master blacksmiths. The resulting mixture was poured into molds where it was slowly cooled, allowing the steel crystals to align themselves in intricate and beautiful patterns, as if nature itself had woven its magic into the metal. Once the steel had taken shape, the forging process began. The blacksmiths, with almost supernatural skill, struck the metal with heavy hammers, bending and twisting it over and over again. This process, known as folding, was crucial to the creation of Damascus steel, as it had allowed the layers of metal to fuse into a single structure, giving the steel its legendary strength and flexibility. As the metal was worked, the characteristic patterns of Damascus steel began to emerge like silver rivers flowing across the surface of the metal. These patterns were not only a testament to the blacksmith's skill, but also a symbol of the connection between man and nature. The next step in the creation of Damascus steel was tempering, a process that required almost divine precision. The metal, still hot from forging, was immersed in a bath of oil or water, where the sudden change in temperature hardened it. This process had to be carried out with the utmost care, as a mistake could result in the metal fracturing, destroying weeks of work. The blacksmiths, with steady hands and calm hearts, performed this ritual with almost religious devotion, aware that they were participating in an act of creation that transcended the merely human. Over time, the secret of Damascus steel began to fade away. Wars, invasions, and changing times caused the knowledge to be lost, leaving only legends and fragments of stories about this lost art. Today, Damascus steel remains a mystery, a reminder of a time when man and nature worked together to create something truly extraordinary. In the ruins of the ancient forges, the echo of the hammers still rings out, a whisper from the past that invites us to remember and dream of what once was in the heart of the Ottoman Empire, at a time when the world was still in the shadows of the unknown. An admiral and cartographer named Pyre Rees embarked on a mission that would challenge the limits of human knowledge. In his study, surrounded by ancient scrolls and maps, Pyre Rees immersed himself in an ocean of information gathered from explorers, sailors, and wise men from distant lands. With almost supernatural precision, he began to draw lines and contours that outline a world that few had ever seen. Almost supernatural precision, he began to draw lines and contours that outline a world that few had ever seen. His pen, guided by a steady hand and a sharp intellect, drew coastlines and seas with an accuracy that seemed to defy the understanding of his time. Each stroke on the parchment was a whisper of distant lands, an echo of unexplored oceans, and a promise of discovery to come. The map of P. Race, a masterpiece of cartography, was not simply a geographical document. It was a portal to a world of mystery and wonder. At its edges lay lands that seemed to defy the logic of the time, with details that suggested knowledge beyond what European explorers had achieved up to that point. The coasts of South America, outlined with a precision that baffled scholars, stretched across the parchment as if seen from the sky. The contours of Africa and Europe intertwined with an accuracy that suggested a deep understanding of ocean currents and trade winds. It was as if P. Race had had access to an ancestral knowledge, a legacy of lost civilizations, that had sailed the seas long before history began to be recorded. As the map took shape, the smallest details began to emerge, revealing secrets that had remained hidden for centuries. In the waters of the Atlantic, islands appeared that did not appear on any other known map. Their shapes were suggestive and mysterious, as if they were fragments of a lost continent. The annotations in the margin of the map, written in elegant and precise calligraphy, offered clues about the Pyre sources of information. They mentioned ancient maps, some of which were said to come from the legendary Library of Alexandria, and accounts of sailors who had sailed the seas in times immemorial. Each annotation was a thread in the vast web of knowledge that P.Y. Rees had woven, a testament to his dedication to unraveling the mysteries of the world. The map was not only a technical achievement, but also a reflection of P.Y. Rees' worldview. In his representation of the world, one could see a fusion of cultures and knowledge, a testament to the rich heritage of the Ottoman Empire as a melting pot of civilizations. The influences of Arab, European, and Asian maps intertwined in his work, creating a representation of the world that was both a product of its time and a prophetic vision of the future. In his map, P.Y. Rees had captured not only the geography of the world, but also the spirit of exploration and discovery that defined his era, a reminder that although the world was vast and full of mysteries, human ingenuity and curiosity could unravel its secrets. However, P.Y. Rees's map also raised troubling questions. How had he managed to obtain such accurate knowledge of lands that were only just beginning to be explored by Europeans? What sources had he consulted to create a map that seemed centuries ahead of its time? These questions, shrouded in mystery, have fascinated historians and cartographers for generations. Some suggest that P.Y. Rees had had access to ancient maps, ancient civilizations, while others speculate that he may have used advanced methods of astronomical observation. Whatever the truth, P.Y. Rees's map remains an enigma, a testament to the human capacity to challenge the limits of knowledge and explore the unknown. In the vast sands of ancient Egypt, a civilization was developing that not only erected colossal monuments, but also cultivated a surprisingly advanced medical knowledge for its time. The papyri, those scrolls of wisdom inscribed with hieroglyphics, were the bearers of medical secrets that priests and healers jealously guarded inside temples where incense perfumed the air and shadows danced to the rhythm of torches. These documents were studied with devotion. The papyri meticulously described the symptoms of diseases, the treatments to follow, and the prayers to the god to ensure healing in a world where the divine and the earthly intertwined. Medicine was not only a science, but a sacred art. The Ebers Papyrus, one of the most famous, stretched out like an endless scroll filled with formulas and recipes that seemed to whisper ancient secrets in its fibers. It contained remedies for common and complex ailments, from simple colds to more enigmatic diseases. Egyptian healers, with their almost alchemical knowledge, mixed ingredients such as honey, resins, and herbs into ointments and potions. Each recipe was a testament of keen observation and meticulous experimentation, reflecting a deep understanding of the healing properties of nature. In the margins of the papyrus, schematic drawings of plants and human organs offered a visual insight into anatomy and botany, uniting art and science in a single stroke. In the heart of Thebes, where the Temple of Karnak stood majestically, the priest-healers practiced their arts in healing rooms shrouded in semi-darkness. Their people came seeking relief, their faces marked by suffering and hope. The healers, dressed in white linen robes, performed rituals that combined the application of remedies with invocations to Imhotep, the god of medicine. The healers' hands moved with precision over the patient's bodies, applying compresses and bandages, while their voices intoned chants that echoed off the stone walls. In this mystical environment, healing was an act of faith and knowledge, a bridge between the human and the divine. As the sun set on the horizon, staining the sky a deep red, the papyri were carefully stored in secret chambers, protected from dust and time. These documents were considered priceless treasures, not only for their medical content, but also for their connection to the legacy of the ancestors. The scribes, with their reed pens, diligently copied the texts, ensuring that the knowledge would be passed on to future generations. In their hands, the papyri became a symbol of continuity, a thread that linked the past with the present, weaving a web of wisdom that stretched across the centuries. In villages along the Nile, the medical knowledge of the papyri slowly seeped out like water nourishing the earth. Local healers, though lacking the sophistication of the temple priests, applied the principles learned from the papyri in their daily practice with herbs gathered from the fields and minerals extracted from the mountains, preparing remedies that relieved pain and restored health. In their hands, ancient knowledge came to life, adapting to the needs of their community. Thus, the legacy of the papyri lives on, not only in the great centers of power, but also in the hearts of ordinary people. In a remote time on the Italian peninsula, an enigmatic and sophisticated civilization known as the Etruscans flourished. This culture, shrouded in mystery, left behind traces of a writing system that, despite the efforts of scholars, remains largely the art of metallurgy and pottery. Scholars remains largely unknown. The art of metallurgy and architecture. They developed a writing system that they used to record their religious rituals, commercial transactions, and historical events. However, as the power of Rome grew, the Etruscan language began to fade, taking with it the secrets of their writing. Archaeologists have discovered inscriptions on tombs, steels, and ceramics, but the full meaning of these texts remains an enigma, a silent echo of a civilization lost in the heart of Tuscany, where green hills meet the sky. Meet the sky, the Etruscan city-states rose, each with its own character and cultural wealth. Tarquinia, one of the most prominent, was famous for its tombs decorated with vibrant frescoes that told stories of life and death. In these underground chambers, the Etruscans inscribed their writings on the walls, hoping that their words would guide the deceased into the afterlife. However, the passage of time and erosion have erased many of these inscriptions, leaving only fragments that scholars are trying to decipher. Each symbol and each line are pieces of a puzzle that, if solved, could reveal the worldview of a people who once dominated central Italy. Etruscan writing, although similar in appearance to the Greek alphabet, is unique in its structure and use. The Etruscans adopted the Greek alphabet, but adapted it to their language, creating a system that, despite its familiarity, is baffling to modern linguists. The inscriptions found on everyday objects such as bronze mirrors and funerary urns suggest that writing was an integral part of Etruscan life. However, the lack of long, continuous text makes it difficult to fully understand their language. The Etruscans wrote from right to left, and sometimes in boustrophodon, in which lines alternate directions, adding another layer of complexity to their decipherment. In the shadows of Etruscan temples, where incense mingled with the cool morning air, priests performed sacred rituals, recording their prayers and offerings on clay tablets. These tablets, though fragile, have partially survived the passage of time, offering a glimpse into the religious practices of the Etruscans. However, most of these inscriptions are brief and cryptic, leaving historians with more questions than answers. The Etruscans believed in a pantheon of gods and goddesses, and their rituals were fundamental to maintaining the balance between the human and divine worlds. Human and divine. Writing in this context was a powerful tool, a means of communicating with the sacred. As Rome expanded its influence, Etruscan culture began to integrate into the growing republic. The Etruscans, once masters of their own destiny, became citizens of an expanding empire. Over time, their language and writing were replaced by Latin, and the secrets of their alphabet were lost into oblivion. From architecture to religion, leaving a legacy that, although largely silent, remains present in the history of Italy. The Romans adopted many aspects of Etruscan culture, but writing, with its complexity and mystery, faded away, leaving only echoes on ancient stones. On the vast horizon of ancient Mesopotamia, where the Tigris and Euphrates rivers meandered through fertile lands, rose majestically the colossal structures that reached toward the sky. These imposing buildings, built with baked clay bricks, stood like artificial mountains in the middle of the plains, reflecting the power and devotion of the civilizations that erected them. Each ziggurat was a testament to the architectural skill and deep spirituality of the Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian peoples, who believed that these structures were bridges between the earthly world and the divine. As the sun rose on the horizon, its golden rays illuminated the terraced steps of the ziggurats, creating a spectacle of light and shadow that seemed to take on a life of its own. The purpose of these monumental constructions went beyond the merely architectural. At the heart of each city-state, the ziggurat served as the epicenter of religious and cultural life. It was believed that the city's protective god lived at its summit, and that from there he watched over and guided its inhabitants. Priests, considered intermediaries between the gods and men, ascended the steep stairways to perform rituals and offer sacrifices to the gods to perform. Rituals and offerings, seeking divine favor to ensure the prosperity and protection of their people. On special occasions, sacred processions wound their way through the streets to the base of the curate, where ceremonies were held that united the community in an act of shared faith. The construction of a siggur was a titanic undertaking that required the mobilization of vast resources and manpower. Architects and artisans worked tirelessly, designing each level with mathematical precision to ensure the stability of the structure. The bricks, made from river mud, were sun-baked and then assembled with bitumen mortar, creating a surface resistant to inclement weather. As the curate rose, each level was decorated with reliefs and mosaics that told stories of gods and heroes, turning the structure into a stone book that recounted the history and beliefs of its people. Inside, above the walls, were secret chambers and hidden shrines where only the highest priest had access. These sacred spaces were considered the spiritual heart of the city and held relics and cult objects of incalculable value. The walls of these chambers were adorned with intricate engravings and paintings depicting scenes from Mesopotamian mythology, creating an atmosphere of mystery and reverence. It was said that in these places the veil between the human and divine worlds was thinner, allowing the priests to communicate directly with the gods. The impact of the ziggurats on the daily life of the Mesopotamians was profound. They were not only religious centers, but also places of social and cultural gathering. Fairs and markets were held in their surroundings, where merchants from distant lands exchanged goods and news. The ziggurats also served as astronomical observatories from which priests studied the movement of the stars, developing knowledge that would influence agriculture, navigation, and measurement and time measurement. Thus, these structures became symbols of the connection between heaven and earth, between the human and the divine. In the heart of ancient Egypt, where the Nile winds like a ribbon of life through the desert, an art form developed that defied time and death itself: mummification. This process, shrouded in mystery and reverence, began with the preparation of the deceased's body, a ritual that was carried out in the house of death, a sacred place where embalming priests dressed in white linen tunics moved with precision and solemnity. This process was not only a preservation technique, but an act of devotion, a meticulous preparation to ensure that the deceased could navigate the underworld and attain eternal life. The embalmers, with their expert hands, worked in silence, aware of the importance of their task, knowing that any mistake could condemn the soul to wander aimlessly. Sacred amulets were placed between the layers, each with a specific purpose: to protect the deceased, guide them, and ensure their rebirth. The face of the deceased was covered with a mask, often made of gold, which captured the essence of the person in life, a reminder of their identity and status. This golden face shone with the promise of eternity, a symbol of the transformation from mortal to immortal. With the body wrapped and prepared, the deceased was placed in a sarcophagus, a work of art in itself, carved and painted with scenes from life and the afterlife. The sarcophagus was often decorated with hieroglyphics and sacred symbols. It served as a protective shield, a barrier between the world of the living and the realm of the dead. The lid of the sarcophagus, adorned with the image of the deceased, was sealed with ceremonies and prayers, ensuring that the soul could recognize its body in the afterlife. This final act of sealing was a moment of great solemnity, a recognition of the deceased's transition from earthly life to eternal existence. Eternal existence. The funeral procession, a procession of family members, friends, and priests, accompanied the deceased to their final resting place. A tomb carved into the rock or built in the desert sand during the journey was recited with hymns and prayers invoking the gods to guide and protect the soul on its journey. Upon arrival at the tomb, the sarcophagus was placed inside, surrounded by offerings of food, drink, and personal items that the deceased might need in the afterlife. The tomb, a microcosm of the earthly world, was sealed with stones and sand, an act symbolizing the closing of a chapter and the beginning of another in the deceased's existence. In the vast expanse of the Mediterranean, where the sea meets the sky in an eternal embrace, stand the enigmatic structures of Malta's megalithic temples. These constructions, which defy the passage of time, emerge from the earth like stone giants, their robust and archaic forms evoking a remote and mysterious past. The builders of these temples, whose names have been lost in oblivion, possessed architectural knowledge that seemed to defy the limitations of their time. With almost supernatural precision, they carved and assembled enormous blocks of limestone, some of which weighed several tons, using rudimentary tools and techniques that still baffle archaeologists today. As one enters the heart of these temples, the air seems to be charged with an ancient energy, as if the stones themselves were whispering secrets from a forgotten time. The corridors and chambers, arranged with almost perfect symmetry, suggest a highly advanced civilization. With almost perfect symmetry suggest a deep understanding of geometry and astronomy. The alignment of the structures with the solstices and equinoxes indicates that the builders were not only skilled craftsmen, but also celestial observers who sought to connect the earthly with the divine. The interior walls, adorned with intricate engravings of spirals and abstract figures, tell stories of rituals and ceremonies of society that worshipped its gods with devotion and reverence. The construction process of these temples was a feat of engineering and community organization. It is believed that the stones were quarried from nearby quarries and transported using a system of rollers and levers, a testament to human ingenuity in the face of physical challenges. The placement of each block required meticulous planning, and teamwork was essential to erect the imposing structures. The builders, guided by spiritual leaders and architects, worked in unison, their collective efforts. Collective efforts reflecting a society united by a common purpose, to honor their deities and ensure the prosperity of their people. At the center of each temple was the Sancta Sanctorum, a sacred space reserved for the most important rituals. Here, priests and priestesses performed ceremonies that connected mortals with the divine, invoking the protection and benevolence of the gods. Offerings of food, drink, and precious objects were placed on stone altars, while smoke from the bonfires rose toward the sky, carrying with it the prayers of the faithful. This space, charged with symbolism and spirituality, was the beating heart of the community, a place where the human and the divine existed in delicate balance. Over the centuries, Malta's megalithic temples became silent witnesses to the evolution of civilization. Future generations, although distant the original builders, who continued to use these sacred spaces, adapting them to their own beliefs and needs. However, as new cultures and religions emerged, the temples were gradually abandoned, their stones covered by the mantle of time and oblivion. Despite this, their legacy lives on, a tangible reminder of the human capacity to create and transcend. In the heart of the vast Roman Empire, roads stretched out like vital arteries, connecting cities, towns, and distant frontiers. These distant roads, built with almost divine precision, were more than just simple paths. They were a reflection of Roman power and engineering. As one advanced, were more than just roads. They were a reflection of Roman power and engineering. As one traveled along these roads, the landscape changed almost imperceptibly, from the rolling hills of the Italian countryside to the dense forests of Gaul. Soldiers marched with steady steps, their sandals echoing on the perfectly aligned stones, while merchants drove their carts loaded with spices, and treasures. The roads not only facilitated trade and military mobility, but they were also silent witnesses to countless stories of love, betrayal, and adventure. Along these routes stood mansions and villas where travelers could rest and recharge their strength. These inns, known as mansions, offered temporary refuge, and within their walls, the lives of people from all corners of the empire intertwined. In one of these mansions, an old storyteller recounted to travelers the legends of the gods and heroes who, according to legend, had walked those same roads in times immemorial. His words evoked images of Jupiter throwing thunderbolts from the sky, Mars leading invisible armies, and Mercury, the messenger, gliding along the roads with the speed of the wind. The inns were also the scene of unfathomable mysteries on certain nights when a moon shone with a ghostly glow. It was said that the shadows of the ancient Roman builders emerged from the stones, whispering forgotten secrets to those who dared to listen. Some claim to have seen spectral figures dressed in togas and armor, walking in silent procession as if still guarding the routes they had created. These stories, passed down from generation to generation, added an aura of mysticism to the roads, turning them into something more than just stone paths. Over the centuries, the Roman roads became a symbol of the empire's eternity. Despite wars, invasions, and the inexorable passage of time, the stones remained firm, resisting the wear and tear of the elements. Emperors came and went, but the roads remained a testament to human ingenuity and the ambition of a people who had conquered the known world. Historians and scholars who traveled these routes marveled at the durability of the constructions, wondering if one day the secrets of their construction would be revealed. However, not all. The secrets of the roads were mystical or architectural in nature. Hidden among the undergrowth and shadows were the remains of earlier civilizations absorbed by the relentless advance of Rome. Pottery shards, stone tools, and ancient pagan altars spoke of a time when other peoples had ruled these lands. Archaeologists exploring these ruins tried to unravel the stories of those who had walked those roads before the arrival of the Romans, seeking to understand how their lives had been transformed by the expansion of the empire. In an era when gods walked among mortals and the secrets of the earth were whispered by the wind, there was a formula that defied the passage of time: Roman concrete. This material, born of the alchemy between stone and fire, was the foundation upon which the majestic structures that defied eternity were erected in the heart of the Roman Empire. Architects and alchemists jealously guarded this knowledge, passed down from generation to generation as a divine legacy. However, in a twist of fate, the formula began to fade from collective memory, as if the gods themselves had decided to remove it from human reach. The story of its loss begins on a dark night when a devastating fire ravaged the library of a prominent Roman architect. On its shelves was the only document containing the complete formula for concrete, a document that had been protected for centuries. Wind-fueled flames consumed the building with insatiable voracity, leaving behind only ashes and rubble. The wise men of the time, upon learning of the tragedy, gathered in council, aware that the lost knowledge could mean the end of an era of architectural splendor. Meanwhile, in the shadows, a group of renegade alchemists who had been banished for their heretical practices watched with interest. They had heard rumors about the formula. Although they did not, they possessed the complete knowledge. They were determined to recreate it in their hidden laboratories. They experimented with different combinations of materials, desperately trying to replicate the strength and durability of Roman concrete. However, their efforts were in vain, as they lacked the secret ingredient that gave the material its mystical longevity. In the cities of the empire, the structures began to show signs of deterioration. The temples that once stood proudly toward the sky now showed cracks and fissures. Bridges that had supported the weight of entire legions began to sway. The population, seeing the decline of their monuments, began to murmur about the gods and the possibility of divine punishment. The leaders of the empire, concerned about the growing discontent, sent emissaries to distant lands in search of wise men who could help recover the lost knowledge. In a remote corner of the empire, an elderly hermit who had dedicated his life to the study of Here's the rumors about the search for the formula. He remembers hearing fragments of conversations between the ancient master builders in his youth. Determined to help, he sets out on a journey to the capital, taking with him his own discoveries about the nature of materials. Upon his arrival, he is greeted with skepticism, but his wisdom and humility soon win the trust of the imperial architects. In a remote time, when the world was still in its infancy, the Hermetic texts emerged as a beacon of wisdom in the midst of darkness. These manuscripts, written in an arcane and encrypted language, contained secrets that promised to reveal the mysteries of the universe. They were said to have been dictated by Hermes Trismegistus, a mythical figure who combined the wisdom of the gods with the understanding of men. In the depths of a forgotten library, hidden behind a labyrinth of underground passageways, these texts lay waiting to be discovered by those worthy of their knowledge. The guardians of this knowledge, an order of wise men known as the Keepers of the Veil, dedicated their lives to protecting and deciphering the enigmas they contained. As the centuries passed, the esoteric knowledge contained in the Hermetic texts began to slowly filter into the outside world. Alchemists, fascinated by the promise of transmuting metals into gold and achieving immortality, became the first to attempt to unlock its secrets in their laboratories surrounded by bubbling flasks and cryptic symbols. These seekers of truth worked tirelessly, guided by fragments of wisdom they managed to decipher. However, the true meaning of the texts remained elusive, like a mirage that vanished just when it seemed within reach. Only those with a pure heart and an open mind could aspire to understand the entirety of their message on a starry night under the light of a full moon that bathed the landscape in a silvery glow. A young scholar named Alaron entered the sanctuary of the Guardians of the Veil. He had dedicated his life to the study of the Hermetic texts, and his search had led him to this sacred place. With every step he took, he felt the weight of the generations of wise men who had preceded him. Upon reaching the heart of the sanctuary, he found himself before a marble altar on which lay an ancient tome covered in dust and cobwebs. With trembling hands, Alaron opened the book and began to read, his eyes shining with a mixture of fear and reverence. The words he found on the pages of the tome seemed to come to life, dancing before his eyes in a spectacle of light and shadow. As he read, Alaron was transported to a realm beyond time and space, where the secrets of the cosmos were revealed in a language of symbols and metaphors. He understood that the Hermetic texts were not simply a set of instructions, but a map to spiritual enlightenment. Each symbol, each word, contained multiple layers of meaning, challenging the reader to look beyond the obvious and explore the depths of their own soul. Over time, Alaron became a master of esoteric knowledge, guiding others in their search for truth. Under his tutelage, a new generation of seekers arose, each contributing their own perspective and understanding to the Hermetic texts. Together, they began to unravel the mysteries of the universe, discovering that the true power of the text did not lie in their ability to transform the physical world, but in their ability to transform the human spirit. Through their study, they learned to see the connection between all things, to recognize the divine in the mundane, and to find peace in the midst of chaos. In the heart of the desert, where the scorching sun seems to consume all hope of life, stands the majestic city of Petra, carved into the rock by the ingenious Nabateans. This civilization, which flourished in such an inhospitable environment, developed a system of irrigation canals that defied the logic of their time. The Nabateans, masters in the art of hydraulic engineering, transformed the arid landscape into an oasis of life through an intricate labyrinth of canals, cisterns, and dams. They managed to capture and store water from the scarce rains and occasional torrents that descended from mountains. This system not only ensured the survival of the city, but also allowed gardens and in the middle of the desert. The channels carved with precision into the rock wound their way from the mountains, guiding the water to the farming areas and storage reservoirs. Each channel was designed with a slope calculated to the millimeter, ensuring that the water flowed smoothly without being lost to the thirsty soil. The Nabateans had learned to read the terrain, understand the whims of the climate, and anticipate the needs of their people. During the rainy season, water was captured and directed into underground cisterns where it was kept cool and protected from a scorching heat. Some of these cisterns, of which could store thousands of liters, were true hidden treasures beneath the city's surface. The irrigation system was not only a masterpiece of engineering, but also a testament to the Nabateans' ability to live in harmony with their environment. Instead of fighting the desert, they had made it their ally, using its resources sustainably. The gardens of Petra, fed by this ingenious system, flourished with a variety of plants and flowers that seemed to defy the logic of nature. Visitors to the city were amazed at the sight of palm trees, fig trees, and vineyards growing in a place where life seemed impossible. This greenery not only provided food and shade, but also symbolized the power and wealth of the Nabateans. As the sun set over Petra, the irrigation channels reflected the last rays of light, creating a spectacle of colors that seemed magical. The water that had traveled miles from the mountains now rested in the city's cisterns and fountains of the city, ready to be used when needed. The Nabateans, aware of the fragility of their environment, had developed a deep respect for water, treating it as a sacred resource. This respect was reflected in every aspect of their lives, from the architecture of their buildings to the religious ceremonies they held to celebrate the arrival of rain. Petra's irrigation system not only ensured the survival of its inhabitants, but also allowed for the development of a rich and sophisticated culture. Freed from constant worry about water shortages, the Nabateans could devote themselves to trade, crafts, and art. The city became an important center of cultural exchange where caravans from all over the ancient world met. Merchants brought with them not only material goods, but also ideas and knowledge that further enriched the lives of the Nabateans. In this melting pot of cultures, Petra flourished as a beacon of civilization in the middle of the desert in the sands of ancient Egypt, where the Nile winds like a ribbon of life through the desert. There were whispers of a book that contained the knowledge of the gods. This book, known as the Book of Thoth, was a compendium of forbidden wisdom, a text that promised to grant its reader the power to decipher the secrets of the universe. It was said that Thoth, the god of writing and wisdom, had personally inscribed every word on its pages using ink made from the very essence of the stars. The priests of the Temple of Todd, jealous guardians of this knowledge, claimed that the book was hidden in an inaccessible place, protected by spells and creatures from another world to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. On a moonless night, when the shadows seemed to take on a life of their own, a young scribe named Nefer-Kapta, driven by an insatiable thirst for knowledge, decided to embark on the quest for the legendary book. Nefer-Kapta had spent years studying sacred texts and deciphering the most complex hieroglyphics. But he felt that his understanding of the world was incomplete. Guided by fragments of ancient papyrus and visions that came to him in dreams, the scribe ventured into the desert, following a path that only he could see. As he advanced, the air became denser, charged with an energy that seemed to vibrate with every step he took. After days of travel, Nefer-Kapta arrived at a hidden oasis, a place that did not appear on any map. In the center of the oasis, surrounded by palm trees that whispered secrets to the wind, stood a temple, covered in vines and moss. The walls of the temple were adorned with inscriptions that glowed with a light of their own, as if the words were alive. Upon entering, the scribe felt a presence watching him, an ancient force assessing his intentions. However, his determination did not waver, and he continued on his way to the heart of the temple, where a secret chamber awaited. In the center of the chamber, on a stone pedestal, rested the Book of Thoth, its pages made of an unknown material that seemed to change shape and color under the dim light filtering through the ceiling. Nefer-Kapta approached with reverence, aware that he was about to cross a threshold from which there would be no return. As he opened the book, a gust of wind swept through the room and the words began to dance before his eyes, revealing secrets that no mortal had ever known. The scribe felt his mind expand, encompassing knowledge that defied logic and reason. However, with knowledge came burden. Nefer-Kapta understood that the power of the book was not only a gift but also a test. The visions unfolding before him showed possible futures, paths branching off in infinite directions, each with its own consequences. The scribe realized that the real challenge was not to acquire knowledge, but to know how to use it wisely. With each page that turned, he felt the weight of responsibility grow, and an inner voice warned him of the dangers of arrogance and the desire for power. In the heart of the central highlands of what we now know as Mexico stood the majestic city of Teotihuacan, a place shrouded in mystery and splendor. The city, with its imposing pyramids and avenues, was a center of power and knowledge where the secrets of the gods seemed to be within reach of those who knew where to look. The Pyramid of the Sun, the largest structure in the city, stood like a stone colossus, its steps ascending toward the sky, inviting priests and leaders to approach the gods. At its summit, it was said that time and space intertwined, allowing the chosen ones to glimpse the destiny of humanity. The walls of the pyramid were adorned with intricate carvings that told stories of creation and destruction, of eternal cycles that governed life on earth. Along the Avenue of the Dead, the main artery of the city, temples and palaces stretched out, each one keeping its own secrets. Priests dressed in vibrant robes performed rituals in honor the gods, seeking their favor and protection. In the temple of Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, ceremonies were held that connected the inhabitants of Teotihuacan with the spiritual world. The walls of the temple were covered with reliefs depicting the deity in his serpentine form intertwined with symbols of water and fertility, suggesting a deep knowledge of the natural cycles and their influence on human life. Beneath the surface of the city, a labyrinth of tunnels and chambers extended like a reflection of the world above. These hidden passageways were used by priests to perform secret rituals far from the prying eyes of ordinary citizens. In these depths, it was said that sacred objects and ancient texts containing the knowledge of the ancestors were kept. The echoes of chants and prayers resonated off the stone walls, creating an atmosphere of mystery and reverence. The few who had access to these places spoke of visions and revelations that defied human understanding. On the outskirts of the city, farmland stretched as far as the eye could see, fed by a system of canals that brought water from the nearby mountains. This ingenious irrigation system was a testament to the Teotihuacan's advanced knowledge of engineering and agriculture. The fields produced abundant harvests of corn, beans, and chili peppers, sustaining the population and allowing the city to flourish. However, the farmers also paid tribute to the gods of the earth and water, aware that their prosperity depended on the balance between man and nature. As the sun set over Teotihuacan, the city was transformed into a place of shadows and dancing lights. Torches illuminated the squares and avenues as the inhabitants gathered to celebrate festivals in honor of their deities. Drums resounded in the night, accompanied by the sound of flutes and songs that filled the air with a vibrant energy. In these moments of celebration, the line between the human and divine worlds blurred, and the Teotihuacans felt part of a larger, more mysterious cosmos. However, despite its greatness, Teotihuacan was not without its challenges. Internal tensions and external threats began to tear at the fabric of the city. Leaders struggled to maintain control, while signs of decay became increasingly evident. The temples and palaces, once full of life and activity, began to fall into disrepair. The secrets that had sustained the city for centuries began to fade, leaving behind a legacy of mystery that would endure throughout the centuries. Teotihuacan, the city where men became gods, faded into time, leaving only its imposing structures as silent witnesses to its former glory in the heart of the ancient forests. Where the mist entangles itself among the trees like an eternal veil, Celtic druids gathered in sacred circles hidden from the eyes of the world. These men and women, guardians of arcane knowledge, wore white robes symbolizing the purity of their connection with nature. In their hands they held staffs carved with ancient runes, each symbol an echo of a time when gods walked among mortals. The air was filled with the scent of herbs and resin, and the song of birds mingled with the murmur of the nearby rivers, creating a natural symphony that accompanied their ceremonies. In the center of the circle, a crackling fire burned, its flames dancing and flickering in the mist nearby trees, creating a natural symphony that accompanied their ceremonies. In the center of the circle, a crackling fire sent sparks flying into the sky as if trying to reach the stars. The druids, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames, began their rites with an invocation to the elements. The wind whispered through the leaves, the river water responded with a murmur, the earth vibrated beneath their feet, and the fire roared with an ancient force. Each element was a witness and a participant in the ritual, a reminder of the interconnection of all things, connection of all things. The druids raised their voices in melodic chants, their words, in an ancient language that resonated with the power of creation itself. As the ritual progressed, the druids entered a trance-like state, their minds traveling beyond the physical world to invisible realms. In these visions, they encountered the spirits of nature, the guardians of the forests, rivers, and mountains. These encounters were sacred, and the druids returned with wisdom and guidance for their people. The visions were carefully recorded, each symbol and message unraveled with precision with care, each symbol and message unraveled with precision. 4. On them depended the balance between humans and the natural world. The Druids were the bridges between these two worlds, and their responsibility was to maintain harmony. The language of the Druids, a language of power and mystery, was passed down from generation to generation, its secrets jealously guarded. It was not a written language, but a spoken one, full of nuances and intonations that could change the meaning of a word. This language was used not only in rituals, but also in everyday life, in blessings and curses, in stories and songs that kept the memory of their people alive. Druids were the storytellers of their history, the guardians of their culture, and their language was the key that opened the doors to ancestral knowledge. Druid rituals were not only ceremonies of spiritual connection, but also acts of healing and protection. They used herbs and potions, combining their knowledge of nature with the power of their sacred language. Each plant had a purpose, and each mixture had an intention. The Druids knew how to use them to heal the body and spirit. Their skills were respected and feared, and their presence was sought in times of need. The Druids were the doctors and advisors of their people, and their wisdom was a beacon in the darkness of uncertainty. At the twilight of their ceremonies, when the fire died out and night enveloped the forest, the Druids withdrew in silence, leaving behind only the echo of their chants in the wind. The forest returned to its stillness, but the power of the rites remained an invisible thread that wove the destiny of their people with that of the earth itself. The Druids, with their knowledge and connection to the divine, continued their vigil, always attentive, always present in a world where the visible and the invisible intertwined in an eternal dance of life and mystery. In the heart of the dense jungle, where the song of the birds intertwined with the whisper of the wind among the leaves, rose the majestic city of Tikal rose up, here among temples that seemed to touch the sky and squares that echoed with the echo of ancestral ceremonies. The Maya developed a numbering system that reflected the complexity and ingenuity of their civilization. This system, based on a combination of dots and bars, allowed the Maya to represent numbers with an elegance and simplicity that defied the passage of time on the stone walls. The scribes carved these symbols, creating a numerical language that not only counted the days, but also narrated the history of a people in harmony with the cosmos. The Mayans, tireless observers of the sky, used their numerical system to track the movement of the stars on clear nights. Priests gathered at the top of pyramids where the air was purest and the stars shone most brightly. There, with the help of their calculations, they predicted eclipses and charted the course of the planets. As a calendar that governed the life of the community, this astronomical knowledge, captured in codices and monuments, was a testament to Thercodices and monuments, was a testament to their deep connection with the universe, a cosmic dance in which each number had its place and purpose in the earthly realm. The Mayan numbering system also had practical applications in everyday life. Merchants who traveled long distances through the jungle and mountains used these numbers to keep accurate records of their transactions in markets, where the aroma of spices mingled with the bustle of the crowd calculated the value of their goods, with a skill that amazed visitors from distant lands. Thus, the numerical system became an essential tool for trade, facilitating the exchange of goods and strengthening the ties between different city-states. Architecture, another field where the Maya left their indelible mark, also benefited from their advanced numerical knowledge. With almost divine precision, architects designed structures that defied gravity and time using their system. Numbering system to calculate the exact proportions of temples and palaces, ensuring that each stone fit perfectly into place. These buildings, which still stand today as silent witnesses to a golden age, were a reflection of the harmony and balance that the Mayas sought in all facets of their existence. In the field of agriculture, the Maya numbering system played a crucial role in crop planting. Farmers, guided by the sacred calendar, knew when it was the right time to sow and harvest. With the help of their calculations, they predicted rains and droughts, thus ensuring the survival of their people in the fields where corn grew tall under the tropical sun. Numbers became a language of hope and renewal, an eternal cycle that guaranteed the continuity of life in the vast Pacific Ocean, where the horizon merges with the sky in an endless embrace. The ancient Polynesian navigators plied the waters with a skill that defied the understanding of their time. These sailors, guided by ancestral knowledge passed down from generation to generation, embarked on their double-hulled canoes, masterfully constructed from local wood and plant fibers. Each boat was a work of art designed to withstand the ocean's currents and winds. Inside, the navigators prepared for a journey that was not only physical but also spiritual. Polynesian navigation was not simply a means of reaching a destination. It was a ritual that connected men with their ancestors and with the gods who lived in the stars. The Polynesians did not have compasses or written maps, but they possessed a deep knowledge of the night sky. The stars were their guides, and each one had a name and a purpose in the vast celestial tapestry. The navigators observed the movement of constellations, such as Orion's Belt and the Southern Cross, to determine their position and direction during the day. The sun and clouds provided clues about their course. Meanwhile, the behavior of seabirds and wave patterns indicated the proximity of land. This knowledge was passed down orally through songs and stories, ensuring that each generation of navigators was prepared to face the challenges of the ocean. At the heart of every voyage, Polynesian navigators relied on their intuition and an almost mystical connection with the natural environment. Sitting in their canoes, they could feel the ocean currents through their bodies, interpreting the subtle changes in the water as a secret language that only they could understand. This ability, known as telep, allowed them to detect the presence of islands beyond the visible horizon, guiding them to their destination with astonishing precision. Polynesian navigation was an art that combined meticulous observation with a deep faith in the invisible forces that ruled the world. As the canoes advanced across the ocean, the navigators remained in a constant state of alert, watching for any signs that might indicate a change in conditions. Clouds on the horizon could herald the arrival of a storm, and the color of the water could reveal the proximity of a treacherous reef. At times like these, experience and instinct became their most valuable allies, allowing them to make quick and accurate decisions to ensure the safety of the crew and the vessel. Each voyage was a test of endurance and skill, and success depended on the navigator's ability to read the signs of the ocean and adapt to its whims. Arrival at a new island was a moment of celebration and reverence. The navigators disembarked with gratitude, offering gifts to the gods and thanks for a safe journey. The promised land stretched out before them, rich in resources and opportunities, and the navigators became explorers, ready to establish new communities and expand the reach of their culture. Each island discovered was a new chapter in the history of the Polynesians, a testament of their courage and determination to conquer the vast ocean that surrounded them. In the vast desert of Nubia, where the scorching sun meets the golden sands, stands the majestic temple of Abu Simbel, a monumental work that defies the passage of time. Carved directly into the rock, this temple is not only a testament to the power and devotion of Pharaoh Ramses II, but also an astronomical enigma that has fascinated generations. As one approaches, the colossal statues of the pharaohs seated on an eternal throne seem to guard ancient secrets. The temple's facade, with its 4 gigantic figures, is only the prelude to a deeper mystery that is revealed inside. Upon crossing the threshold of the temple, visitors are greeted by a long, dark corridor flanked by statues of Osiris, the god of resurrection. This corridor leads to the hypostyle hall, where columns carved with hieroglyphics narrate the exploits of Ramses II. However, it is in the inner sanctuary where the true marvel is found. Here, in a sacred space, stand statues of the gods Are, Ammonius, and the deified Ramses himself. The arrangement of these figures is not random. It is designed to interact with the cosmos in a way that defies modern understanding. Twice a year, on February 22nd and October 22nd, an extraordinary phenomenon occurs at Abu Simbel. The first rays of the rising sun penetrate the temple, illuminating the statues in the sanctuary. This event is not a simple play of light, but a manifestation of the astronomical knowledge of the ancient Egyptians. The sunlight travels through the dark corridor, bathing the figures of Ra, Horus, Ammonius, and Ramses in gold, while Thoth, the god of darkness, remains in shadow. This spectacle of light and shadow symbolizes the renewal of the pharaoh's divine power and his connection with the gods. The design of the temple, with its precise orientation, is a testament to the deep understanding that the Egyptians had of the movement of the sun. The architects of Ramses II were not only builders, but also astronomers who understood the celestial dance of the heavenly bodies. The choice of dates is not arbitrary. It is believed that they coincide. Astronomers who understood the celestial dance of the heavenly bodies. The choice of dates is not arbitrary. They're believed to coincide with the pharaoh's birthday and coronation, marking moments of great importance in his life and reign. This astronomical knowledge, encoded in stone, is a reminder of the ancient Egyptians' ability to fuse science, religion, and power into a single masterpiece. As the sun rises and the spectacle of light reaches its climax, the temple of Abu Simbel is into a cosmic theater. Visitors, both ancient and modern, are amazed by the precision and symbolism of this event. In the dim light of the sanctuary, the air is filled with a reverent silence, as if time itself has stopped to witness the miracle. This fleeting moment, where the divine and the earthly meet, is a reminder of the enduring legacy of the ancient Egyptians and their ability to capture the essence of the universe in their monuments. In a distant time, when the oceans still held unfathomable secrets, the majestic Atlantis rose, a civilization of unparalleled splendor. Its inhabitants, the Atlanteans, were known for their wisdom and mastery of the arts and sciences. The main city, built in a series of concentric rings, shone with marble temples and hanging gardens that defied the imagination. At the center of this architectural marvel stood the great temple of Poseidon, a sanctuary dedicated to the god of the sea, whose statues of gold and ivory reflected the light of the sun in a dazzling spectacle. The Atlanteans, with their advanced knowledge, had managed to tame the forces of nature using energy crystals that allowed them to control the weather and navigate the seas with unparalleled precision. Atlantean society was governed by a council of wise men who, guided by the oracle of the seas, made decisions in harmony with the laws of nature. This council, composed of the most learned members of the civilization, met in the Hall of Echoes, a chamber, where the voices of the ancestors echoed in eternal whispers. There, the wise men consulted ancient manuscripts written in a language that only they understood and that contained the secrets of the universe. Education was the pillar of Atlantean society, and from an early age, children were taught mathematics, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy, preparing them to continue the legacy of their ancestors. However, despite its greatness, Atlantean civilization was not without its challenges. In the depths of the ocean, forces were at work that would eventually lead to its downfall was not without its challenges. In the depths of the ocean, dark forces conspired to destabilize the balance that the Atlanteans had maintained for centuries. The priests of the temple, during their vigils, began to perceive disturbances in the ocean currents and in the behavior of sea creatures. The dolphins, messengers of Poseidon, brought warnings of an impending cataclysm, but their messages were cryptic and difficult to interpret. The wise men, concerned about these signs, intensified their studies, seeking answers in the stars and in the ancient texts. Meanwhile, in the streets of Atlantis, life continued at its usual pace. The markets bustled with activity, with merchants offering exotic spices and artifacts from distant lands. Artists, inspired by the beauty of their surroundings, created masterpieces that captured the essence of their world. However, a sense of unease began to permeate the air, a premonition that the splendor of Atlantis might not be eternal. The citizens, though oblivious to the actions of the council, felt in their hearts that a change was coming. In an attempt to unravel the mystery of the warnings, the wise men decided to call an extraordinary assembly in the great temple. There, under the watchful gaze of the statue of Poseidon, the greatest thinkers of Atlantis gathered. For days, they debated and analyzed every piece of information, every symbol, and every prophecy. Finally, they came to the conclusion that Atlantis must prepare for the inevitable. They ordered the construction of underground arks where the knowledge and treasures of civilization would be stored in the hope that one day, if Atlantis succumbed, its legacy could be rediscovered. The day of the cataclysm arrived without warning. The sky darkened, and the sea that had been a faithful ally turned into a relentless enemy. Giant waves rose, devouring the land with a fury unleashed fury. The Atlanteans, in an act of desperation and bravery, clung to their beliefs and wisdom, tried to save what they could. But nature, in its absolute power, claimed Atlantis, submerging it in the depths of the ocean. However, in the silence that followed, the underground arcs remained intact, guarding the secrets of a civilization that, although lost, would continue to inspire future generations with its legends of wisdom and splendor high in the Andes Mountains, where the clouds seem to brush the peaks and the air is so pure that you can almost taste it. There stands the majestic city of Machu Picchu. This marvel of Inca engineering is not only a testament to the architectural skill of its builders, but also a reflection of their deep understanding of nature. The city was designed with astonishing precision, each stone placed with a purpose, each structure oriented to take full advantage of the sunlight and the natural protection of the surrounding mountains. The Incas, with their ancestral knowledge, chose this place not only for its beauty, but also for its ability to sustain a thriving community thanks to its access to water sources and fertile soil. The canals and hydraulic systems of Machu Picchu are a masterpiece of ancient engineering. These canals, carved with precision into the living rock, wind through the city, carrying fresh water from the mountains to every corner of the citadel. Water, considered sacred by the Incas, flows with a constant murmur, feeding fountains and agricultural terraces and providing life to the city. Inca engineers designed a drainage system that not only prevented flooding during the rainy season, but also ensured that every drop of water was used efficiently. This hydraulic system is a testament to the Incas' ability to work in harmony with nature, using their environment to create an oasis of life in the middle of the mountains. As you walk along the stone paths of Machu Picchu, it is impossible not to be amazed by the complexity of its design. The agricultural terraces, built on the mountainsides, not only did they serve to grow food, but they also helped stabilize the ground and prevent landslides. These terraces, fed by an ingenious system of canals, allowed the Incas to grow a variety of crops, from corn to potatoes, ensuring the city's self-sufficiency. The layout of the terraces also reflects a deep understanding of astronomy, with some aligned in such a way as to mark the solstices and equinoxes, guiding the community's agricultural and ceremonial activities. At the heart of Machu Picchu lies the Temple of the Sun, a structure that stands out for its impressive architecture and spiritual significance. Built with perfectly carved and assembled stones without the use of mortar, this temple is an example of the skill and knowledge of the Incas. During the winter solstice, the first rays of the sun pass through a specially aligned window, illuminating the temple line, illuminating the central altar of the temple. This phenomenon not only demonstrates the advanced astronomical knowledge of the Incas, but also symbolizes the connection between the earthly and heavenly worlds, a constant reminder of the divine presence in everyday life. Life in Machu Picchu was deeply intertwined with nature and the cycles of the cosmos. The Incas believed that every element of their environment was inhabited by spirits, and that it was their duty to live in harmony with them. This belief is reflected in the layout of the city, where every structure and every path seems to be in perfect harmony with the surrounding landscape. The Incas did not just build a city. They created a sanctuary where humanity and nature coexisted in a sacred balance. This respect for nature and the search for harmony are evident in every stone and every channel of Machu Picchu, a legacy that continues to inspire those fortunate enough to contemplate its grandeur as the sun sets over Machu Picchu, bathing the city in a golden light. One cannot help but feel a deep connection to the past. The long shadows of the mountains seem to come to life, whispering stories of a people who, with ingenuity and devotion, built a paradise in the heights. The channels still flowing with crystal-clear water are a reminder of the skill and wisdom of the Incas, a people who understood that true greatness lies in living in harmony with the world around us. Machu Picchu, with its beauty and mystery, remains an eternal testament to the human capacity to create wonders that defy time and nature. In a time when sunlight filtered through the stained glass windows of cathedrals, transforming the interior of these majestic buildings into a kaleidoscope of colors, there was an art that few understood in its entirety. This art, that of medieval stained glass, was a closely guarded secret by master glassmakers who dedicated their lives to perfecting the technique of capturing light and tell stories through fragments of glass in a small workshop hidden among the narrow streets of a walled city. A young apprentice watched in awe as his master, an old man with trembling but steady hands, carefully selected each piece of glass as if each one contained a fragment of the soul of the story they were about to tell. The process began with the choice of colors, each symbolizing a different aspect of the narrative to be represented. The deep blue of the sky, the intense red of passion, and the serene green of hope combined to bring to life scenes of the holy kings and mythological creatures. The young apprentice watched with curiosity as his master mixed pigments and metal oxides to create those vibrant colors, a knowledge passed down from generation to generation, but always shrouded in a halo of mystery. The alchemy of glass was an art in itself, and the apprentice knew that every mistake could mean the loss of weeks of work. Once the colors were ready, the task of cutting and assembling the pieces began. Cutting and assembling the pieces. The master, with almost supernatural precision, used iron tools to shape each fragment, following a design that seemed to have been dictated by the gods themselves. The apprentice, with his still inexperienced hands, tried to imitate his mentor's movements, aware that each cut had to be perfect, as there was no room for error. As the pieces of glass were joined together, they began to reveal the story they were destined to tell, a story that would come to life every time the light passed through it. The assembly of the pieces was an almost ritualistic process. The master used strips of lead to join the fragments, creating a skeleton that held the work in place. The apprentice in charge of cleaning and polishing each joint felt that he was participating in a sacred act, joining not only pieces of glass, but also fragments of history and faith. As the stained glass window took shape, the workshop was filled with multicolored light, as if the stories of the past were eager to be told once again, if the stories of the past were eager to be told once again. Over time, the young apprentice would become a master, passing on the art of stained glass to a new generation. However, the secret of the colors and techniques used would be lost in time, becoming a mystery that historians and artisans of the future would try to unravel. Medieval stained glass windows, with their beauty and complexity, would remain a testament to human ingenuity and a reminder that sometimes the brightest light comes from the darkest places. Darkest places. The ancient city of Syracuse, bathed by the crystal-clear waters of the Mediterranean, was home to an imposing figure in the field of science and invention. Archimedes, this genius known for his brilliant mind and his ability to challenge the limits of knowledge, found himself at the center of a historical crossroads. The city, rich in culture and trade, faced the imminent threat of the Roman legions advancing with the determination to conquer it. In this context of tension and danger, Archimedes devoted himself to creating war machines that would change the course of history. His inventions, born of a combination of ingenuity and necessity, would become legends that would echo through the centuries. The high, sturdy walls of Capua became the canvas on which Archimedes displayed his genius. One of his most remarkable creations was the catapult, a siege machine that could launch projectiles with astonishing force and precision. These catapults, designed with a system of counterweights and levers, were capable of hurling enormous stones that fell upon the Roman ships with devastating effectiveness. The Roman soldiers, accustomed to victory, suddenly found themselves facing an invisible enemy, an engineer whose machines seemed to defy the laws of nature. The morale of the troops began to falter as Archimedes' catapults continued their relentless attack from the walls. But Archimedes' mind did not stop at the catapults in his quest to protect his beloved city. He came up with an even more surprising machine, the Archimedes hook. This device, a kind of crane with a giant hook, was used to lift and overturn enemy ships that came too close to the walls. From above, the Syracusans watched in amazement as the Roman ships were lifted out of the water and then dropped, crashing against the rocks. The sight of these ships, which looked toys in the hands of an invisible titan, sowed panic among the Roman ranks. Archimedes' ability to manipulate the forces of nature with his inventions became a symbol of resistance and hope for the defenders of Syracuse. However, perhaps the most legendary of all Archimedes' creations was his use of fire as a weapon. It is said that he used parabolic mirrors to concentrate the sun's rays and direct them towards the sails of the Roman ships, setting them alight from a distance. Although some consider this story more myth than reality, the idea that a man could control the power of the sun to defend his city captured the imagination of future generations. The Romans, faced with an enemy who seemed to have the favor of the gods, were forced to reconsider their tactics. War, which until then had been a matter of brute force, was transformed into a game of ingenuity and strategy, with Archimedes as its undisputed master. As the battle for Syracuse dragged on, Archimedes' war machines became an integral part of the city's defense. The inhabitants, inspired by the ingenuity of their compatriot, joined in a common effort to resist the siege. The walls, reinforced by Archimedes' inventions, held firm against the Roman attacks. However, war is not just a matter of machines and strategies. It is also a test of endurance and will. The Romans, determined not to be defeated, continued their siege with relentless tenacity, seeking any weakness. In the defenses of Syracuse. On the island of Syracuse, bathed by the waters of the Aegean Sea, a civilization flourished that, like an enigma shrouded in time, left behind traces of a rich and complex culture, the Minoan civilization. At the heart of this society, writing and religion were intertwined in an intricate tapestry of symbols and rituals. The Minoans developed a writing system known as linear, whose signs, engraved on clay tablets, still challenge modern scholars. These, although largely indecipherable, these inscriptions suggest an administrative and religious language used to record offerings, ceremonies, and perhaps prayers to their deities. Writing was not only a tool for communication, but also a bridge to the divine, a means of connecting the earthly with the heavenly. In Minoan palaces, such as the majestic complex at Knossos, religion was evident in every corner. The frescoes that adorned the walls depicted scenes of processions and rituals where men and women dressed in ceremonial robes offered tributes to their gods. The figure of the bull, a symbol of strength and fertility, dominated these representations, suggesting a cult centered on the worship of this powerful creature. In the courtyards of the palaces, Taurocatapsia ceremonies were held, a spectacle in which young men jumped on the backs of moving bulls, an act that symbolized dominion over nature and communion with the divine. The Minoans worshipped a great mother goddess, a central figure in their pantheon who embodied the fertility of the earth and the abundance of the seas. This deity, often depicted with snakes in her hands, was worshipped in open-air shrines high in the mountains or in sacred caves, places where the earth and sky met. The priests and priestesses, guardians of these sacred places, performed rituals that included dances, chants, and food offerings and libations, seeking the goddess's favor to ensure the prosperity of their crops and the protection of their homes. The Minoan religion was not limited to the confines of palaces and shrines in cities and villages. Daily life was steeped in religious practices. Houses had small domestic altars where families offered prayers and sacrifices to their protective gods. Religious festivals marked the calendar with celebrations that united the community in a cycle of renewal and gratitude. During these festivities, the streets were filled with music and dance, and the air was filled with the aroma of burnt offerings, a reminder of the presence of the divine in everyday life. The sea, omnipresent in the lives of the Minoans, also played a crucial role in their religion. The Minoans believed that the waters were the domain of powerful gods capable of bestowing blessings or unleashing their fury. Before setting out on their voyages, the sailors performed rituals in honor of these sea deities, seeking their protection and guidance. The offerings thrown into the sea were a tribute to these deities' rituals in honor of these sea deities, seeking their protection and guidance. The offerings thrown into the sea, ranging from jewelry to sacrificed animals, were a tribute to the forces that govern the currents and winds, an act of reverence toward the vast and indomitable ocean. Deep in the vast and mysterious Amazon rainforest, where sunlight barely penetrates the dense canopy of leaves, the indigenous people have developed an ancestral knowledge of the medicinal use of plants. This knowledge, passed down from generation to generation, is a testament to the intimate relationship between man and nature. In this lush environment, every plant, every leaf, and every root has a purpose, a secret that shamans and healers have learned to decipher over the centuries. The jungle, with its symphony of sounds and its palette of infinite greens, is a vast natural laboratory where the indigenous people have perfected the art of healing. Shamans, central figures in the community, are the guardians of this knowledge, with a gaze that seems to penetrate beyond the visible, through the jungle with a confidence that only experience can give. They know every hidden path, every 100-year-old tree, and they can distinguish between plants that heal and those that can be deadly. In their hands, a simple leaf can become a powerful remedy. The preparation of these medicines is a ritual in itself, where each step must be followed with precision. The plants are collected at specific times of the day when their power is strongest and are combined in exact proportions to release their healing properties. In a small village, a sick child lies in a hammock. His breathing is weak and his skin burns with fever. The community gathers around him, and the shaman, with a serene expression, begins his work. From his leather bag, he takes out a mixture of leaves and roots that he has collected on his walks through the jungle. With careful movements, he prepares an infusion that smokes gently in a clay bowl. The aroma that emanates is a mixture of earth and life, a reminder of the power of nature. The shaman murmurs ancient words as he administers the remedy, trusting in the power of the plants to restore the child's health. As night falls, the jungle comes alive with the songs of nocturnal creatures. The shaman remains by the child's side, watching over him, alert to any changes. The community, united in reverent silence, waits patiently. With the first rays of sunlight, the child opens his eyes. His fever has subsided, and his breathing is stronger. A sigh of relief ripples through the village, and the shaman smiles, knowing that once again the wisdom of his ancestors has prevailed. This episode is just one of many that are repeated in the jungle, where life and death are in constant balance, and where knowledge of plants is the line that separates the two. The medicinal use of plants is not limited to curing physical illnesses. The indigenous people also use them to heal the spirit and the mind. In sacred ceremonies, certain plants are used to induce visions and connect with the spiritual world. These experiences, guided by the shaman, are moments of introspection and revelation where participants seek answers to profound questions about their existence and their place in the universe. The jungle with its seek answers to profound questions about their existence and their place in the universe. The jungle, with its immensity and mystery, becomes a bridge between the earthly and the divine, and plants are the keys that open the doors to these hidden realms. In a remote time, when the earth still resonated with the echoes of lost civilizations, a story was woven around artifacts of incalculable power, crystal skulls. These objects, carved with a precision that defied understanding, were believed to contain the essence of the universe. These objects, carved with a precision that defied human understanding, were considered by many to be vestiges of ancient knowledge. It was said that the skulls possessed the ability to store and transmit infinite wisdom, a legacy of the gods who walked among men in forgotten times. In the heart of the jungle, where nature reclaimed its dominion with indomitable exuberance, there was a hidden temple, guardian of one of these skulls. The structure, covered by vegetation and the passage of time, emanated an aura of mystery that attracted seekers of the unknown. As one entered the temple, the air became thick, charged with an energy that seemed to vibrate with every step. The walls, adorned with intricate carvings, told stories of a world where men and gods shared the same space. In the center of the main hall, on a stone pedestal, rested the crystal skull, radiating an ethereal light that illuminated the room. Those who dared to approach felt a presence that transcended the physical, as if the skull harbored a consciousness of its own, observing and judging those who dared to disturb its rest. The ancient priests of the temple felt a presence that transcended the physical, as if the skull harbored a consciousness of its own, observing and judging those who dared to disturb its repose. The ancient priests of the temple, an order of wise men who had sworn to protect the secret of the skulls, believed that these objects were keys to knowledge that could change the destiny of humanity. In a nearby village, legends about the crystal skull were passed down from generation to generation, fueling the imagination of the young and the fear of the old. The elderly. It was said that those who managed to decipher the secrets of the skull would be able to communicate with the gods and gain access to unimaginable power. However, it was also warned that knowledge was not a gift but a test, and that only those with a pure heart could bear the weight of the revealed truth. The villagers lived in a delicate balance between reverence and fear, aware that the skull was both a blessing and a curse, a reminder of the greatness and fragility of human existence. One day, a young adventurer, driven by an insatiable desire to discover the truth, decided to embark on the journey to the temple, armed with little more than his determination and the stories he had heard. As a child, he ventured into the jungle, facing the dangers that lurked in every shadow. As he advanced, the environment seemed to come to life, as if nature itself were conspiring to protect the secret of the skull. However, the young man refused to be intimidated, guided by an intuition that led him inexorably toward his destiny. Upon reaching the temple, he felt a mixture of fear and awe, aware that he was about to face a mystery that had defied entire generations. Inside the temple, the young man found himself face to face with the crystal skull. The light emanating from the object seemed to pulse in time with his own heart, creating a connection that transcended the earthly realm. In that moment, time seemed to stand still, and the young man was transported to a realm of visions and revelations. He saw the birth and fall of civilizations, the rise of heroes, and the decline of empires, all intertwined in a tapestry of destiny and free will. He understood that the skull was not just an artifact of power, but a witness to history, a guardian of lessons learned over the eons. Upon returning to reality, the young man felt that he had changed forever, a bearer of knowledge that must be shared with the world, his heart filled with gratitude and responsibility. The young man left the temple, aware that his life would never be the same again. He knew that the path ahead would be full of challenges, but also opportunities to use the knowledge he had acquired for the benefit of humanity. As he walked away, the crystal skull remained in its place, a beacon of wisdom waiting for those brave and worthy enough to unravel its secrets. The young man's story would become a new legend, a reminder that true power lies not in the object itself, but in the ability to understand and apply the lessons it offers. Thus, the mystery of the crystal skulls would continue to inspire future generations, an eternal enigma in the vast and wonderful universe of ancient mythology. In a remote time, when the earth still echoed with the dry footsteps of humanity's first steps, the ancient inhabitants of Europe began to erect monumental structures that defied the understanding of their time. These stone colossi, known as dolmens, emerged from the ground as silent witnesses of a civilization that sought to connect the earthly with the divine. Across vast plains and mist-covered hills, the dolmens rose in the form of enormous stone slabs that seemed to defy gravity. Each of these megaliths was an impressive feat of engineering, built with a purpose that went beyond the merely functional. With almost ritualistic devotion, the builders selected the strongest stones and transported them from distant quarries using methods that remain shrouded in mystery to this day. Remained shrouded in mystery. As the sun rose on the horizon, casting long shadows across the landscape, the dolmens became the center of ceremonies that united communities in a spiritual bond. These structures were said to be portals to the afterlife, places where the living could communicate with their ancestors and the gods. On full moon nights, tribes gathered around the dolmens, lighting bonfires that illuminated the stones with an ethereal glow. Shamans wrapped in animal skins and adorned with feathers performed rituals to ensure the prosperity and protection of their people. The air was filled with chants and the hypnotic rhythm of drums, while the flames danced to the beat of ancient music. Over the centuries, dolmens became landmarks in the cultural landscape of Europe, marking territories and serving as reference points for travelers. However, it went beyond geography. Each dolmen was a symbol of the connection between man and nature, a reminder that life and death were part of an eternal cycle. Modern archaeologists, when excavating these sites, have discovered human remains and offerings that suggest that dolmens also served as tombs for leaders and revered figures of the community. These findings reveal a deep respect for the dead and a belief in an afterlife where the spirits of ancestors continued to guide the living. The process of building a dolmen was a community endeavor that required the collaboration of all members of the tribe. Men and women worked side by side using rudimentary stone and wooden tools to shape the slabs. Transporting these colossal stones was a feat of ingenuity and determination that involved the use of wooden rollers and sleds to move them across difficult terrain. Once in place, the stones were erected with astonishing precision, aligned with the cardinal points or with astronomical phenomena, such as the summer solstice. This alignment suggests an advanced knowledge of astronomy and a deep connection with natural cycles. Over time, the dolmens began to acquire an aura of mystery and reverence. Local legends spoke of giants who had raised the stones or of natural beings who lived inside them. Travelers who ventured near these monuments often felt an inexplicable presence, as if the stones themselves held the secrets of a forgotten past. Some claimed to have seen strange lights dancing around the dolmens in the darkness of night, while others heard whispers in the wind that seemed to emanate from the stones. These stories, passed down from generation to generation, contributed to the mystique of the dolmens and ensured their place in the collective imagination of the vast plains of West Africa, where the wind whispers ancient secrets among the stones plains of West Africa, where the wind whispers ancient secrets among the rocks and the sands lies the land of the Dogon, a people whose connection to the cosmos defies modern understanding. At the heart of their culture, the Dogon have woven an intricate web of myths and astronomical knowledge that seem to come from a time and place beyond the earthly realm. On clear nights, when the sky unfolds like a velvet blanket studded with stars, the elders of the tribe gather around bonfires, their faces illuminated by the dancing glow of the flames, to tell stories of knowledge bestowed upon them by celestial beings. The Dogon speak of a star invisible to the naked eye known as Potolo, which orbits around Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. According to their stories, Potolo is a small but incredibly dense star composed of a material that defies imagination. This knowledge, which modern science only confirmed in the 20th century with the discovery of white dwarfs, has been part of the oral tradition of the Dogon for generations. The elders describe how the Gomo, amphibious beings who descended from the sky in a shining ship, revealed these celestial secrets to them, teaching them about the cosmic dance of the stars and planets. In the Dogon account, the Gomo not only brought astronomical knowledge, but also imparted wisdom about the creation of the universe. According to their myths, the universe was born from a cosmic egg that exploded, dispersing matter and energy in all directions. This image, which resonates with the modern theory of the Big Bang, is central to Dogon cosmology. The Gomo, as guardians of knowledge, guided the Dogon in understanding their place in the cosmos, teaching them to observe the heavens and interpret the movements of the celestial bodies as divine messages. The Dogon's relationship with the cosmos is reflected in their rituals and ceremonies, which are deeply rooted in their observation of the celestial cycles. Every 60 years, they celebrate the CG Festival, an event that marks the cycle of Sirius be around Sirius. During this festival, the Dogon recreate the arrival of the Nomo and the transmission of their knowledge with elaborate dances and masks symbolizing cosmic forces. These ceremonies are not only a reminder of their celestial heritage, but also a reaffirmation of their connection to the universe and their role as guardians of ancient knowledge. As the night progresses and the stars slowly rotate in the sky, the Dogon continue their vigil, observing and recording the celestial movements with a precision that defies logic. Their observations are not limited to Sirius and Potolo. They have also documented the movements of other planets and stars using a system of symbols and signs that have been passed down from generation to generation. This knowledge, preserved through centuries of oral tradition, is a testament to their profound understanding of the cosmos and their ability to read the language of the stars in the silence of the African night, where time seems to stand still and the universe unfolds in all its majesty. The Dogon remain an enigma, a people whose wisdom defies conventional explanations. Their history is a reminder that knowledge can take unexpected forms, and that sometimes the answers to the mysteries of the cosmos are found in the most unexpected places, guarded by those who have learned to listen to the whisper of the stars in a remote time in a corner of the world where the desert stretched like a vast ocean of sand. There existed a civilization that had mastered the art of engraving on stone. The Ica stones, as they were known, were the silent testimony of a people who had attained extraordinary knowledge. These stones, scattered across the arid landscape, were covered with intricate engravings that told stories of a forgotten past. The engravings, made with astonishing precision, depicted scenes from everyday life that seemed to defy time and space. Human figures could be seen interacting with creatures that seemed to come from a fantasy world, but were as real to them as the sun that illuminated them. As one delved deeper into the study of these stones, a world was revealed where men lived alongside giant beasts, creatures that now only exist in natural history books. The engravings showed these men riding on the backs of dinosaurs, hunting and domesticating these colossal creatures with a skill that seemed impossible. The scenes were so detailed that one could almost feel the earth tremble beneath the feet of these prehistoric giants. The artists of Ica had captured not only the image, but also the essence of a world where the impossible became possible, where the line between reality and fantasy blurred. But the stones of Ica not only spoke of coexistence with extinct creatures, they also revealed advanced knowledge in fields such as medicine and astronomy. Some of the stones depicted complex surgeries performed with instruments that seemed too sophisticated for the time. The engravings showed doctors from this ancient civilization performing organ transplants and other surgical procedures. Complex surgeries performed with instruments that seemed too sophisticated for the time. The engravings showed the doctors of this ancient civilization performing organ transplants and other surgical procedures with a skill that defied modern understanding. Other stones showed star maps with constellations and celestial bodies that indicated a deep understanding of the cosmos. It was as if these stones were the pages of an ancient science book, a book containing secrets that humanity had forgotten. The mystery of the Ica stones deepened even further with the depiction of strange machines and artifacts. Some of the stones showed what appeared to be flying vehicles soaring through the skies with a grace and speed that defied gravity. These machines, with their aerodynamic shapes and complex structures, suggested a level of technology that should not have existed at that time. The engravings showed the inhabitants of Ica using these machines to explore the world and beyond, suggesting that this civilization had a knowledge of flight and space exploration that rivaled that of modern civilizations. However, despite their advanced knowledge and skills, the Ica civilization seemed to have disappeared without a trace, leaving only these stones as evidence of their existence. The stones with their enigmatic engravings were like a puzzle that challenged archaeologists and scholars to decipher their meaning. What had led this civilization to achieve such a level of knowledge, and what had caused its disappearance? The answers to these questions seemed to be engraved on the stones, waiting to be discovered by those who dared to look beyond the obvious. In the heart of the vast Mica Empire, where the sun rose with majestic regularity over the city of Tenochtitlan, there was an artifact of immense power and mystery, the circular calendar. This stone disk, carved with precision and care, was not only a calendar, but also a map of the universe. Circular calendar. This stone disk, carved with precision and care, not only marked the passage of time, but was also a portal to understanding the cosmic cycles that govern the lives of the Micas. On its surface, intricate engravings told stories of gods and heroes, of cataclysms and rebirths, each represented by symbols that seemed to come to life under the sunlight. The priests, guardians of ancestral knowledge, gathered around the calendar to interpret its secrets, whispering prayers and chants that echoed in the air like an echo from ancient times. The calendar was divided into two main systems: the tonal pali, a sacred cycle of 260 days, and the Shuppahuali, the solar cycle of 365 days. Each of these cycles intertwined in a cosmic dance that reflected the order of the universe. The tonal puwali, with its 20 tricinas, was used to determine the auspicious days for rituals and ceremonies, while the Shupwali governed the seasons and agricultural festivities. At the center of the calendar, the face of the god Toneshu, the sun, watched with piercing eyes, surrounded by symbols representing the four sun gods, eras of creation and destruction that had shaped the world as they knew it. As the days passed, the Micas lived in harmony with the cycles of the calendar, their lives intertwined with the destiny of the gods. Each day brought a new omen, a new opportunity to honor the deities who ruled the sky and the earth. The priests in their robes adorned with feathers and jewels performed complex rituals to ensure divine favor, while the people watched with reverence and awe. At night, when the sky darkened and the stars shone like jewels in the mantle of the goddess Koyal Shaki, the Micas gathered around bonfires to listen to the stories of their ancestors, tales of bravery and sacrifice that were intertwined with the cycles of the calendar. The calendar was also a constant reminder of the fragility of existence, of the inevitability of change and renewal. The Micas believed that the world was destined to be destroyed and recreated in an endless cycle of death and rebirth. Each era or sun had ended in catastrophe, and the fifth sun, which now illuminated their days, would also come to an end. This belief permeated every aspect of their lives, from the architecture of their temples to the offerings they left on the altars. The calendar was both a symbol of hope and a warning, a reminder that balance must be maintained at all costs. In the ceremonial center of Tenochtitlan, the calendar was the beating heart of the city, a testament to the greatness and ingenuity of the Mexicans. The artisans who had created it had captured the essence of time in stone, an achievement that resonated through the centuries. Visitors who came to the city from distant lands were amazed by its complexity and beauty, and the Mexicas, proud of their heritage, shared with them the stories and hidden meanings in its engravings. The calendar was more than a tool. It was a living legacy, a tangible connection to the cosmos and the gods who inhabited it. High in the majestic Andes Mountains, a vast network of roads stretched out, connecting the Inca Empire, uniting peoples and cultures across landscapes of breathtaking beauty. These roads, known as the Capac Nan, were more than just transit routes. They were vital arteries that brought life and trade to every corner of the empire. The Incas, masters of engineering, had designed these paths with astonishing precision, adapting them to the challenging geography of the region. From the snow-capped peaks to the tropical jungles, the paths wound their way through the landscape, defying logic, crossing abysses by means of suspension bridges made of vegetable fiber and ascending steep slopes with steps carved into the living rock. Along these paths were tambos, or inns, which offered shelter and provisions to travelers. These tambos were more than just rest stops. They were centers of cultural and economic exchange where merchants, messengers, and pilgrims gathered. The Chasquis, elite runners, traveled these roads at impressive speeds, carrying messages and news throughout the empire with an efficiency that rivaled modern communication systems. Each Chasqui, trained from a young age, possessed extraordinary endurance and agility, capable of covering great distances in a single day, ensuring that the Inca Sapa was always informed of events in his vast domain. However, the Inca roads held secrets deeper than simple logistics. It was said that some sections of the Nan were imbued with a mystical power, resonating with the energy of the earth and the ancient gods. Inca priests, who knew these secrets, performed rituals at specific points along the road, seeking the blessing of the Apis, the mountain spirits. On full moon nights, the shadows of the walkers stretched across the stone pavement, and it was said that those who walked with a pure heart could hear the whispers of their ancestors guiding them on their journey. In certain places, the paths branched off into hidden trails known only to a select few. These trails led to sacred places where secret ceremonies were performed in honor of Inti, the sun god, and Pachamama, Mother Earth. The initiates who traveled these trails were subjected to tests of courage and wisdom, facing their own fears and desires in search of a deeper understanding of the world and themselves. Those who administered these tests returned transformed, with knowledge that could not be shared in words, but only experienced through life itself. As the Inca Empire grew, so did the network of paths, spreading like a living fabric that united people from different regions and cultures. However, with the arrival of the Spanish conquistadors, the Nan faced its greatest challenge. The invaders, marveling at the magnitude and perfection of the roads, used them to advance rapidly through the empire, bringing with them destruction and change. Despite this, the roads resisted as silent witnesses to a time when men and nature lived in harmony. The lost ancient knowledge is not just a matter of history, but a reminder of what humanity can achieve when it combines curiosity, ingenuity, and connection with its environment. It leaves us with unanswered questions, but also offers us a reflection of what we could achieve if we understand the lessons of the past, from the construction methods of the Egyptians to the astronomical secrets of the Maya. Each discovery reminds us that there is still much to learn from those who came before us. If this exploration of lost knowledge has piqued your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to continue unraveling the enigmas of the past. Like, share, and tell us in the comments which of these mysteries you would like to explore in greater depth. Together, we can keep the search for answers alive and bring to life the echoes of civilizations that left an indelible mark on the history of humanity. We look forward to seeing you on the next adventure. Greetings, the ancient historian.